Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nic unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
Well, good morning, Nicole.
Morning, Warwick. That sounded really flat, didn't it? I probably feel a little...
It's, g'day listeners. It's a day that ends in Y.
It is.
Which means there's another COVID drama and another change and some more uncertainty. And I think it's just a matter of where, not whether, we're going to have a lockdown and, you know, changes and decisions that a lot of us don't understand and the stress that goes with that, Coxie. It's just becoming almost normal, even though it still sucks just as bad, if not worse, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think maybe the continued uncertainty, certainly that's what we're seeing in social media land, continued uncertainty and perhaps some of those areas that would ordinarily give us a little bit of confidence, i.e. we've been through this before, we know what to expect, actually brings about some negativity because we've been through this before and we know what to expect, and perhaps some fear and some uncomfortableness around what the next little while might look like and knowing that it's totally unpredictable. And I feel like there's a lot of fatigue at the moment. And it's very hard to, it's really difficult and challenging to give this the respect that's being asked. And I think it's because we all understand how it's impacting our lives now. And also, I also feel there's a lot of different points of view coming out this time that we haven't seen before. There's a lot more voice to varying opinions around what's happening. And that's creating some uncomfortable conversations and some challenging thoughts, and it's just really actually quite an uncomfortable time for many people. And so here we are again. Oops, we've done it again. We're back with daily podcasts to keep your ear holes positive the best we can.
And a special shout out to all of our listeners in, well, New South Wales, Greater Sydney region. Obviously, this affects the whole country. It's not isolated to the particular city or local government area when there is a lockdown, because it disrupts everybody. It's like dropping a stone in a pond. And obviously the biggest impact appears to be where the main impact is. That was a double use of the word impact. Sorry about the loss of impact from using impact again.
It was very impactful work.
Oh my gosh. So it's even affecting my ability to speak proper. So we notice where the stone hits the water, and yet the ripples spread far and wide and are really no less impactful, Coxie, no less problematic for a lot of us. And even to some of the conversations that happen off the back of it, I think add to that fatigue that you're talking about. So hello to those of you in Greater Sydney. Nic and I have been chatting over the weekend since the latest lockdown was announced on how we here at Tradies in Business can best support you and actually spark some perhaps other conversations to try and balance out the penchant for drama that some media seem to have, and it's easy for all of us to buy into that narrative that is being pushed either on Facebook just by people in general or by, you know, other states, by our own families, whatever. And I suppose Coxie and I have I wouldn't say privileged, Nic, because I don't feel very privileged. And we did a lot of work with a lot of our Victorian members through their various lockdowns, and certainly last year when all of this really hit hard for Australia, We did do daily episodes. We've had lots of positive feedback about that. Just on some little things that might support you through this time. We will get through this. You will get through this one way or another. What that looks like, none of us obviously know from one day to the next, and that's evident from the way this changes on a hourly basis, let alone a daily basis. So, we're going to work hard to try and bring you some helpful information, some support, some maybe a laugh. Maybe you can just laugh at me being a moron on the airwaves. And we're going to tap into some of the lessons learned by others, which is pretty much what we do here, Coxie.
That most definitely is. I think one of my most favourite points of last year was around a lot of the feedback that we got for the daily. I don't think we ever came up for a name for it, did we? We had a name.
Daily Ronacast was my ridiculous tag.
Yeah. But we did get some great feedback on it. And the other thing that we get consistently good feedback on is sharing other tradies' stories. Now, given that this situation is unfortunately one we've seen before, it allows us to bring to you as listeners some tradies that have been through this already, so they can share some of their tips and some of their learnings and lessons and experiences they learned around their own journey through COVID shutdowns last year. And that's going to hopefully bring you a little bit of hope. I guess the most important thing here is trying to find, I guess it really comes back to what you and I spoke about last year. We need to stop. We need to fact check. We need to get really clear on what the facts are. And yes, we totally understand that's challenging. We've just spent the last 45 minutes trolling through trying to find the facts ourselves. It can be very challenging not to rely on people in social media world to get our facts from. So stopping and going to the government sites or going to our associations to find those facts so that we have exactly what we need to know. And then we need to understand our own personal business facts. Where are we at right now? What does this look like? Can I sustain this? What support is out there for me financially that will help me support our employees through this time? Let's get really clear on what our obligations are before we fall into I guess the default of panic, and that's very easy to do. And please, this is judgment-free zone. None of this is about judgment, simply about encouraging you to pull back to fact and make sure that you have all the information at hand so you can make some good critical decisions, which is what you're going to need to do now as trade business owners in Greater Sydney. Very challenging indeed. But we've got a whole wealth of experience that we can bring you over the next week or so. We have some fantastic tradies and business members who have happily put their hands up to share some of their learning so that you get to, I guess, what's the word? You get to learn from their experience, I suppose. You can lean into where they've been and understand maybe what your journey could look like, and then make some choices for your own and how best to tackle this within your business.
I feel like some of this, Nic, is keeping some perspective.
Yes.
And when I think about some of the work you and I have done over the years in the mental health space and even in the relationship space, supporting others through that, and then you look more broadly, even outside of yours and my experience, to just business owners in general, and even more broadly to things like, cancer support and people who are, struggling with, children who have had trauma or whatever it might be. Something that is very valuable in those spaces is that community is being supported to, as you say, Coxie, find the reliable information. Choose my words carefully here. Now, where you get that from is perhaps open to debate in itself. And there are some places that we probably tend to recognise are not necessarily the most reliable in helping us actually make choices for ourselves, because ultimately we have to make our own decisions about what's best for us based on the information at hand. That's about all you can do. So we just want to bring a bit more information to you. As Coxie said, we've got members and clients in other states outside of, or other areas outside of Sydney that have gone through this. And even if they haven't, they've gone through something else, some other catastrophic challenge in their life where they've learned some personal lessons that they were able to apply to get through a crisis. this is a crisis like no other, and yet a crisis is a crisis. It still requires calm, it still requires patience, clear thinking, and an ability to actually regulate our emotions so that we can get up tomorrow and feel like we actually can do something worthwhile.
Most definitely.
And I feel like that's something that gets lost in the initial panic phase of these sorts of situations. So, look, we will continue to work hard. If you've got feedback or ideas for us, particularly if you're in the Greater Sydney area, by all means, drop us a line. We love to hear from you. We did get some personal messages from people in Victoria last year. We continue to, actually. We had a chat with someone just recently who's going through a tough time. Interestingly enough, not necessarily related to Corona and the lockdowns and everything, just going through a really tough time in their business. And we had a chat with them and gave them some ideas. And from what we can tell, it was quite helpful. So, yeah, drop us a line if you particularly need some support. Otherwise, we're going to bring you a daily Sydney Rona cast now for a bit.
And so you can tune out now if it's really not what you want to do with us. You don't have to listen every day.
Yeah, that's right. You can just scroll by, find the next true crime podcast instead.
Well, they're interesting, but they don't help us get the facts. They don't help us understand what we can do and what choices we have. So hopefully this will help you. Like Warwick said, please, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget, we have an amazing community of tradies on Facebook who are very supportive, who, again, will share their tips and tricks and ideas of what they went through and how they best found a way through it. Just head on over to Facebook, search Tradies in Business in the groups section, and you will find us there. Or if you want to send us a message, you can either click to have a chat in the show notes. There's a button in the show notes that will give you the opportunity to have a 15-minute chat with Warwick and I, or head on over to the website where you'll find a big bold button where you can, again, book to have a bit of a chat. If you're struggling, though, please reach out. We're very much here to support you. We don't want you to struggle on your own.
Hang in there. We'll be coming back to you tomorrow. Maybe there'll be Vegemite smeared on the walls and a few broken plates in the house. Either way, we'll be back here on the podcast. So hang in there. And to everybody else listening, thank you so much for your support and for sharing your stories as well. And we encourage you to do the same and support each other as brothers and sisters in arms here at Tradies in Business.
Take care.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.